Have you ever wondered how a man like Adolf Hitler came to be? Our story begins in the late 19th century in the small town of Braunau am Inn, Austria. It was here, in the year 1889, that Adolf Hitler came into the world. Born to parents Alois and Clara Hitler, Adolf was the son of a stern and volatile father and a nurturing and protective mother. Alois Hitler, a man of authority and unpredictability, was a customs officer by trade. He was known for his temper, and his outbursts were often directed at his son. Clara, on the other hand, was a gentle soul. She was a doting mother who sought to shield her son from his father's wrath. The dynamics of this family unit played a significant role in shaping Hitler's early years. The young Hitler found solace in the world of fine arts, a passion that was not shared by his father. Alois wanted his son to follow in his footsteps and join the civil service, but Adolf had other plans. He yearned for a life that was filled with brushes and canvases, and not ledgers and customs forms. This conflict over his future led to many heated arguments between father and son. In terms of academia, Hitler could best be described as lackluster. He was not particularly fond of school, and his grades reflected this. Despite his less than stellar academic performance, Hitler showed early signs of leadership and charisma. He was a popular student and often found himself at the center of his peer group. However, it's worth noting that his leadership was not always used for good. He was known to be a ringleader in schoolyard pranks and mischief, showing early signs of the manipulative and domineering characteristics that would later define him. As a child, Hitler showed signs of the person he would eventually become. The seeds of Hitler's future were sown in his formative years. As a teenager, young Adolf was a bit of a firecracker, pushing against the grain. He had dreams, aspirations, and a fair bit of rebellion in his spirit. Not too keen on following his father's footsteps into the civil service, he set his sights on the arts. This led him to pack his bags and move to Vienna, the city of music, culture, and a flourishing art scene. Hitler's time in Vienna wasn't quite the picturesque artist's life he had envisioned. Struggling to make ends meet as a painter, he faced the harsh realities of life. His paintings, often architectural landscapes, didn't exactly set the art world on fire. This period of struggle marked his life with poverty, and he found himself living in men's hostels. But Vienna wasn't just about hardship for Hitler. It was a melting pot of diverse cultures and ideas. Here he was exposed to a variety of political ideologies, including the dangerous rhetoric of anti-Semitism that was gaining momentum in some circles. This exposure, coupled with his own biases, kindled the beginnings of a deeply rooted hatred towards Jews. This hatred wasn't just a fleeting thought or a passing phase. Instead, it took root in his mind, growing into an obsession that would later become a cornerstone of his political ideology. His time in Vienna was a crucible, shaping and hardening his views. The city of Vienna thus played a dual role in Hitler's life. On one hand, it was a city of struggle, poverty, and failed dreams. On the other, it was a breeding ground for the disturbing ideologies that would later define him. Hitler's adolescence and early adulthood, marked by rebellion, struggle, and ideological formation, were more than just a series of events. They were the building blocks of the man he would become. These experiences played a crucial role in shaping Hitler's worldview. The battlefield became the crucible for Hitler's political career. As World War I raged on, young Hitler found himself entrenched in the brutalities of the front lines. A volunteer for the Bavarian army, he was no stranger to the horrors of war, showing courage under fire and earning the Iron Cross for bravery, not once but twice. He was wounded, gassed, and faced death head-on, experiences that would shape his perspective and fuel his future ambitions. But courage in combat was just one facet of Hitler's war years. The German defeat left him, like many others, disillusioned and bitter. He felt betrayed by the civilian leaders who had negotiated the Treaty of Versailles, viewing it as a humiliating surrender. This sense of betrayal, coupled with the economic hardship that followed, stirred a deep resentment within him. Amidst the chaos and disillusionment, Hitler found solace in politics. He began to frequent circles that shared his disdain for the Treaty of Versailles and his nationalist sentiments. It was during this time that he came across the German Workers' Party, a small but growing group of like-minded nationalists and anti-Semites. Hitler was fascinated by their ideology, and before long he became a member. His charismatic speeches, filled with fiery rhetoric against the treaty, the Weimar Republic, and the Jews, quickly propelled him to the forefront of the party. His ability to tap into the collective discontent and channel it towards his political agenda set the stage for his ascent in the volatile world of Weimar politics. But it was more than just political opportunism. Hitler was driven by a deep-seated belief that he was destined to save Germany from its downfall. He saw himself as the chosen one, the Führer, who would lead Germany to a glorious future, free from the shackles of the Treaty of Versailles. The war and its aftermath lit the spark in Hitler to reshape Germany. The battlefield had become the crucible for his political career, and the fires of war had forged a leader, one who would plunge the world into another devastating conflict just 2 decades later. From a struggling painter to a burgeoning dictator, Hitler's rise to power was swift. This rise was marked by his leadership of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, better known as the Nazi Party. Hitler didn't just join the party, he took it over, revamping its policies and strategies and turning it into a political force to be reckoned with. In 1923, Hitler and his Nazi Party made their first bold attempt to seize power in the infamous beer hall putsch. This coup attempt may have failed, but it did not deter Hitler. Instead, it served as a stepping stone, propelling him into the national spotlight and turning him into a martyr in the eyes of his followers. His imprisonment following the failed coup was hardly a setback. Instead, it provided him with an opportunity to pen down his political ideology and future plans for Germany in his book Mein Kampf. This book became the blueprint for Hitler's rise, detailing his disdain for the Treaty of Versailles, his hatred for Jews, and his belief in Germany's destiny for greatness. Upon his release, Hitler returned to an economically devastated Germany, rife with unemployment and political instability. He knew the time was ripe, and he began to strategically use propaganda to exploit the fears and frustrations of the German people. Hitler's speeches were fiery, filled with promises of a prosperous future for Germany. He blamed the country's woes on the Jews and the communists, creating scapegoats that unified and fueled the anger of the masses. His charismatic oratory and the Nazi Party's extensive propaganda machine worked wonders. His popularity soared, and so did the Nazi parties. In 1933, Hitler reached the peak of his political career when he was appointed as the Chancellor of Germany. He had maneuvered his way through the political landscape with shrewdness and cunning, capitalizing on the desperation of the German people and the vulnerabilities of the Weimar Republic. By 1933, Hitler had manipulated his way into the highest office in Germany. And that's when things really started to take a turn for the worst. But that, my friends, is a tale for another time. Behind the scenes, Wallick played a role in Hitler's rise and fall. As the old saying goes, money makes the world go round. And in this case, Wallick's money was a vital cog in the machine of Hitler's Nazi Party. A prominent banker of his time, Wallick was initially drawn to the ideologies that Hitler and his party espoused. His financial support was instrumental in propelling the Nazi Party into the limelight, solidifying their foothold in Germany's political landscape. However, as the true nature of Hitler's regime began to reveal itself, Wallick found himself wrestling with a growing sense of disillusionment. The ideals he once believed in, the vision of a stronger Germany that had initially captivated him, now seemed to be nothing more than a facade for Hitler's brutal and oppressive regime. As the horrors of the war escalated, Wallick's disillusionment turned into covert action. Behind the scenes, he began to support the Allies, using his financial prowess to subtly undermine the Nazi regime. His actions, though hidden, played a significant role in the gradual weakening of Hitler's power. The final act of this tragic play was Hitler's downfall. As the Allies closed in, Hitler's world began to crumble. The once invincible leader found himself cornered, his dreams of a 1,000-year Reich in ruins. And in the face of this crushing defeat, Hitler chose the path of suicide, ending his life in his bunker in Berlin. And so, the man who once held the world in his grip met a tragic end, partly due to his own actions and partly due to those of others, like Wallick. The story of Hitler's rise and fall is a stark reminder of the destructive power of unchecked ambition, and the role that individuals, like Wallick, can play in shaping the course of history.